Hey guys, it's Ollie from Rad Season. Welcome to another episode of the Rad Season Show. I'm super excited to be joined by adventurer, runner, and one of the happiest men in the UK, Danny. How are you, man?
Wicked, Ollie, man. Thanks for having me on here.
Thanks for coming on. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Sheffield, just on the edge of the Peak District, the most beautiful place in the whole world.
Nice. And have you been getting out? You've been going running a bit?
Yeah, I mean, let's not get started straight onto COVID, but COVID's been unbelievable for my fitness, just because, well, I'm sure we'll touch on this a bit later on, but I found myself with a lot more time on my hands, and so I'm kind of running PBs at this ripe old age of 42. So I'm just super pumped about all my training, all about getting outside, and I love a cold water swim, and there's all sorts of kind of lakes and stuff around here to dive into. So yeah, I've not been doing too badly.
And how long have you been up there for?
I've been here for about I was in London before, but I've been here for 2.5 years now, and my soul has gone from being a kind of turbulent sea, which is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just like what it was, and now up here it's just this kind of tranquil lake of peace. I can feel it deep within me, the kind of changes that have been happening.
Yeah, a bit of a change from London, right?
Oh yeah, it's just like I think it's just that calmness, and then even probably COVID has led into that, like played into that there's not been all the things to do, because in London there's a infinite amount of things we can do, and up here it's like the greatest thing you can do is just walk out of your house, turn left, and run into the Peak District, and that's like that's life for me. It's just super awesome.
Nice, man. Cool. Well, I'd love to, I guess, jump back and sort of take it back to the beginning of how you got into running and adventures in general, and sort of where that all began for you.
I mean, I just think I've been a little bit of a hyperactive kid my whole life, and I've always like been smiling, happy, loving being around people. The more people around me as a baby, an infant, and a child, the better. And played up at school to performing, dressing up as all the teachers, doing impressions of them and stuff like that. So I've always had this like excess energy, and at different times of my life it's kind of expressed itself in different ways, from just loving sport and having that energy for that, and then getting out in the wild, jumping off rocks, doing as many crazy things as you can, sliding down hills as a kid, just anything you could possibly do to just kind of give yourself a bit of a buzz. And then I guess as I got older, I started kind of grabbing hold of that and trying to channel it in the best ways I possibly could for kind of certain little projects and things like this. But it's always been there. My mum and dad are like super keen runners, so that just fed through, and I just thought everyone's dad went out running every night, and then and that's just kind of fed into me. And it's only when you get to like 15 or 16 and you ask your mates when their dad goes for their run, and they're like, what? No, my dad doesn't run. You're like, oh right, we haven't all got the same parents. It's that kind of period of time when you realize that all parents aren't the same, doing exactly the same thing.
Funny, man. And were you like, when did you start competing? Were you like into competitions and stuff, running and different sports back at school, or?
Yeah, I mean, I liked probably like team sports. I played football. I don't know. I think I was playing for the under-8s or something when I was 7, or just whatever it was. I was a bit younger than everyone else, but it was just a great way to kind of channel everything. And I'm rubbish at football. I don't know how. I won all sorts of awards, and we won some leagues and stuff, but I'm really only good at running. And I senior school, started playing rugby, and I like the physicality of that, and the kind of the rough and tumble, but there's also this kind of running aspect. And the coach said to me, I had like trials and stuff, but the coach would always say to me, Dan, whatever you do, don't kick it and don't pass it, just run. And sometimes that paid off, and other times it didn't. So that was that. And I think it was at school, we used to do cross country. I bloody hated it. We were forced to run around in the cold, and but I was pretty good at it. And my sports as a kid, like, was 200 and 400 meters. That was where I kind of really excelled. But then you know, and so it's just fed on from there basically, and then you find yourself up here where there's a fell race every single day when the world is open, and you can kind of race every day if you want. And I just love that, because it's not really like racing; it's just training with 200 or 300 people next to you, which is my ideal situation.
Yeah. And when did you get into triathlon? Was that sort of like later teens or?
No. I don't really like swimming. I've got really stiff shoulders and all that sort of stuff, and kind of avoided that like the plague at school time. And then I think I came back from Australia, and my older sister had entered a triathlon. Oh no, she'd entered a quadrathlon with kayaking as well, and was like, "Dang, do you want to come and do it with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." When I got back. And I was actually into quadrathlon before that. I was kayaking a lot, and I was still trying to avoid as much swimming as I possibly could. And then it just transitioned. You know, you can go to bigger and better races. You can race better people when you're doing triathlon. So, and I guess it's just like, you know, probably 24, 25, nothing too crazy. And then, you know, but it's always been about running. Really, I enjoyed the biking a lot, mainly because it meant I could eat loads of fry-ups and loads of cakes on the rides and stuff. When I was in Richmond, I used to live in Richmond, and we'd go out from there into Surrey, and we knew every single place you could possibly go to for a decent fry-up or a decent piece of cake. And it was, you know, the weekend was centered around those, and then you come back with a few beers with your mates. And but yeah, it's always running has been the one, really. That's the one, that's the steadfast that's just kept me going.
Okay. And like so you did this pretty epic cycle ride where you went from London. What brought that on? That was sort of what was the reason behind that?
Well, the funny thing is, I guess I was 27 or whatever, and I was like, I'd been traveling. I got into, you know, you finish uni, and I was going to work, and I was just like, crikey, O'Reilly, is this what I've got to do for my next 50 years of my life? And it was just kind of like, there's no way I can do it. So I'd work for a year, and then I'd just go off traveling and be a free spirit and enjoy myself. And I'd come back, work for a year, and then go off again. But it never quite, when I was doing those things, those travels, it never felt like I was fully living what I was meant to be doing. It was kind of escaping, really. And then, and I just knew, like, deep within me that I wanted to do this long cycle ride. And there was some part of me, cycle around the world, or I kind of toyed with cycling to Japan and things like this. And then I decided I did a little spell as a junior school teacher, and I was teaching about this place in southern India called Chembakoli, and I think I inspired myself more than the kids, and I decided I was going to go and cycle to this place in southern India, Chembakoli, and raise some money for them along the way and all this sort of stuff, which was amazing. And my dad was, when my dad heard about me doing this, he thought I was going to get killed on the way, basically, and he was having nightmares. He was whimpering in his sleep and screaming out loud at times. You know, he was really worried that he was going to lose me, I guess. And my mum was like mega calm, super like, and I'm total mummy's boy. Mummy's the biggest worry in the whole wide world. I was just like, Mum, how come I was feeling a bit unwanted, really. I was like, well, how come you're not worrying? And she said, well, you were at 11 years old, you were standing on a stage with your head teacher, and she said to me, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said I wanted to cycle around the world and raise money for charity. And Mum said, I'm worried about you, but this is your destiny, and I can't stand in the way of that. And, you know, how cool is that? And so basically, you know, I was living my childhood dream, and I was just set off. Really, I had no idea. I've got literally no planning skills whatsoever, and I just kind of set off east. You know, I think you're following the sun in the morning, and you let the sun on your back in the evening, and just keeping going in that direction until you get to somewhere that you can camp down, and you just repeat that day after day after day. It's amazing, because people look at it as such a big, I think it's about 9,000 miles of cycling. And the funny thing is, it's not really any different to kind of setting off on Saturday and doing a bit of a ride, and then waking up on Sunday with a bit of a sore butt and sore legs and going again. But you're just living that on repeat. And it was, I mean, you do things like this. Anyone who's done anything that's slightly out of the ordinary like that, and you the experiences you have, especially if you open yourself to those experiences, I think you can probably live a pretty terrible life for those 6 months, worrying what's going to happen to yourself and all this, or you can kind of be the opposite and just say, I'm here, I'm doing this, and I'm going to live every single moment of it, and just going to say yes to everything and go, trust in people, which is sometimes hard to do, but and then you just have these absolutely mind-blowing experiences that change you personally for the rest of your life, and change your outlook on the rest of the world for going forward as well.
Was that the biggest trip that you've done up until that point, or had you ever kind of done any like sort of made like big adventures before that? Yes, definitely. That was definitely the biggest thing I've ever done. But I'd cycled from Land's End to John O'Groats, so I kind of knew I could do day after day cycling and everything like that. So that was my life then. I would be cycling every day or running every day or whatever it was at that point. And when I set off, I was so fit. I was the fittest I'd ever been. And all the guys who I was racing against at that time were a bit worried about me coming back even fitter, because you're cycling all day, every day for all these times. And I came back, I was so unfit. Just been eating loads, drinking loads, just kind of experiencing life in absolute HD. And, whatever came my way, whether it was an opium pipe in the foothills of the Himalayas or whatever, I was like, I'll just try it, see what happens. It was good. Nice one, man. And what did you do when you got back? Did you go back into teaching? Like when you?
No, I mean, I got back and I've been writing this blog, and people had been saying, Dan, this is cool. They were like really enjoying reading it. And a few people had said, you should try and write a book when you get back, put these together and try and turn it into a book. So I spent the next 9 months. It took me longer to write a book about the trip than it did actually to cycle to India. But this is, there's a bit of context to this that I'm missing out in that, and I'm dyslexic, hyperactive, probably a bit ADHD. And so school wasn't like the most natural thing for me. And teachers were quite quick to tell me that I was pretty dumb and really rubbish at English, lit and all that sort of stuff. And I failed it at GCSE. And so I didn't go into this thinking I was very good at this sort of thing, but it was just an expression of self, and so I wrote this book, and then it took off, and it went on to be a bestseller, and then I started won a couple of awards, and even now I was just telling you, I'm just like, that is just so bonkers.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, just compare it to like that childhood I had. It's just like I mean, the great thing was like my head teacher got my parents in at one point. This is a senior school, and he asked my mum and dad if they could move me to a different school because my grades were going to ruin the grades of the school. And and as soon as I got this book published and it started getting all these awards, my dad kind of sent the book to my old headmaster just to let him know.
Did you go around there and just show it to them?
Yeah, I'll sign it for you, should I? Yeah, but that was a cool experience. But and after that, I was probably pretty lost. It's quite a trick. I came back straight back into training, meeting up with all my buddies, and living that same life again. But there was just a little bit of me that was missing the kind of having a real meaning to your life. Like, for those 6 months of cycling to India, there was purpose. Like every single day, like get from here to here. There's a goal. You achieve it. That's great. You don't quite achieve it. That's okay. You have to just work a bit harder tomorrow. Those sorts of lessons. But so you come back and you're not really sure there was this has been a childhood dream. Even if I didn't remember it myself, it's been something that's been deep within me, and you finally lived that dream. And then what do you do after you've done that? And it takes a little while for you to realize that there are other things, and there's other dreams, and there's other things you can create, and all those sorts of things. But yeah, it was a bit lost, but it was well worth it for the trip, I assure you.
Yeah. And did you do you think kind of buried yourself in running and sort of, did and other things as well, right? Like to sort of almost keep busy, and then, or were you like thinking about the next thing already from there? Did you kind of
I
have like
think,
a bit of a break like after the book? And
yeah, I think there was so the point is, the thing I haven't explained as well is that just before the trip, I'd fallen off my bike off a cliff in the Alps, and I should have died 100%. I fell so far, and I felt like I landed on the bottom. I couldn't feel my body. It took a little bit of time before my body kind of checked itself out and allowed anything to work anymore. And I could just hear the screams and see the people, tears dropping down from up at the top of the cliff. And suddenly, I'm able to speak and shout back at them that I'm okay. And I'd landed on this one bush amongst like jagged rocks everywhere else. Just landed in one bush that pierced both my buttocks. One branch went up one butt, one went up the other one. But barring that, 2 holes in your butt is a small price to pay for falling a long way down a cliff. Wow. And it was that point was actually the thing that started to change my life, because you should be dead, so every day's a bonus, and don't waste your time being incredibly upset doing work that you don't want to do. Start living the life that you want to lead, and because tomorrow could be the last day, and so make the most of every single day you get, was the kind of ideas that were going through my head. And like, draw a line in life. Everything from now onwards is a bonus, and you should live it as though it is that.
And where did that take you? Like, what did you want to do, and how did you want to live it?
Well, I mean, I give all these talks all like at Facebook and Google and all these, and it's always it's called The Happiness of Being You. And when I was coming back from school and I was getting with red pen all over my books and being told off by teachers and whatever, I told my dad about what the other kids were doing, what I was doing, and Dad just said, don't worry about what anyone else is doing, just be the best version of yourself. And I guess those words echoed all the way through my life. But at that point, you're like, damn right, I'm going to start being this best version of myself, and putting everything into anything that I do. And initially that was living that dream, then it was writing the book, and then it was kind of keeping your eyes out for other opportunities, and did some crazy silly things that broke world records. They're not really they're not like Usain Bolt records, but they're kind of fun anyway. A bit of bulk snorkeling and this sort of thing. Pogoed across Togo just because it rhymed. That was kind of a nice thing to do. And then things started to change when I stopped looking at myself and I started looking at the people around me, and realizing that it's much cooler to be, it's lovely to be the best version of yourself. And maybe that's level 1, and you kind of complete level 1. You kind of like, I've been really doing the best, the best of who I can be. And then you realize like level 2 is when you start offering that opportunity to other people. And that opportunity came on April the 15th, 2013. Or at least this was the real point where I was like, whoa. And that was when the bombs went off in Boston, and people lost their lives, tens of people lost their limbs. And I wasn't thinking, I'm going to try and do something to change people's lives. It was just an authentic reaction that I wanted to do something to help the people who'd been affected, and to show my support to the running community, really, because the running community has been so powerful for me, whether through finding friendship or keeping my family unit together, or finding love, and it's your therapy, all those sorts of things. And to see people, when they should be chucking their hands in the air to cheer that they've completed this mammoth marathon, and then to see them like lying on the floor because of someone else letting off a couple of bombs. I really felt that and wanted to do something about it. And One Run for Boston was formed at that point, and that was it was a decision to try and help people, really, and to show support. And we thought we might raise a bit of money, and we kind of came up with this idea to organize a running relay from LA to Boston, 3,300 miles. We split that up into 10-mile segments and chucked it on a website, asked the American people to sign up to it, and hoped that they would carry this kind of peace lily baton that we had. carry that continuously from the west coast to the east coast of America, and in doing so, give people a way to express their emotions of that bombings and the sadness and the anger, and just come to bring people together, really, which is what life's all about. And we had no idea what we were doing, no organizational skills at all, just blasting through it with enthusiasm and passion, and getting away with things really with a bit of a smile, to be honest, and looking like a really typically English person, wonky teeth and ginger and all this sort of stuff. Like I think that goes a long way in America, and English accent and everything. But so we what we hoped to do was show some support. We needed 330 people. We thought we'd raise a few £1,000s, and we set off from LA 7 weeks after the bombing, having organized the event, the thing that was going to go across. And by the time we arrived in Boston, thousands of Americans had touched the baton, carried that through night and day, through crazy lightning storms in the night, and tornadoes whizzing by, and 50-degree heat. It was bonkers, but we managed to get that baton all the way to the other side. Had a bit of blood on it, had a bit of puke on it, loads of snot, loads of spit, but it managed to get there. And by the time we reached Boston, it had raised well over $500,000 for the people affected by the bombings. And I love that story so much, not least for what it means to me, the beauty of what that achievement was, but we had no idea what we were doing. It was a tiny idea, and we could have just had that idea and just let it sit inside us, and within a week it's gone, and you're thinking about the next thing, aren't you? But we kind of decided to act on it, and that turned into a movement that united a whole country and raised all that money for charity. And the money raised for charity was nothing in comparison to what it did for the people who were affected. The way that touched their souls, and saw these kind of crazy people from UK across the pond helping them out and everything, and even that was kind of almost secondary to what it did for the people who took part, because there was all this anger, this upset, and being able to do something just kind of freed that. And it was a part of a grieving process of a nation, really. And the most beautiful moment was one of the guys who'd almost died twice on the operating table after he did die twice on the operating table to be brought back to life, and he took part right at the end. He carried the baton across the Boston Marathon finish line at the end of our relay. He was being pushed across in his wheelchair by his daughter, who'd been running the marathon that day, and he'd been watching, and he just looked up at me and said, "Dan, this is when I start to heal." And those words, they're the most precious thing that anyone has ever said to me. Just to think that you can have such a radical effect on someone's life, that just an idea really can, and a bit of enthusiasm can literally cause healing physically, mentally, emotionally. And I love kind of talking about that with people, and you could take that forward, and just acting on something that touches you can have effect that's infinitely beyond your wildest thoughts of where it could possibly go. And it's not going to happen every time, but just with that choice, the chance that could happen, I mean, I think that's good reasoning to give that a go at any singular opportunity.
Did you have any idea, back then, once you started it, that it could get that big, and kind of, that would happen? Or were you we're going to try it, we're going to do what we can and try and do our best anyway, and sort of hopefully we raise a bit of awareness? But I mean, it went massive, right?
It was just, it went huge, but we had no idea. We thought we might have to run it 20 miles each a day, and cover up a whole load of the sections that people weren't going to, because initially there's certain parts of the States where there's just no one lives. We were phoning up in these kind of townships. We were like searching them out on Google and like, okay, there's a business there, and we'd find what the business's number was, call up, and we'd try to say, do any of your employees run, because we need them? And they were just kind of like the noises they made were kind of like complete disbelief that you would even be asking such a crazy question. And then you get there, you eventually get there, and we managed to fill the spaces, and you realize why. It's like this total ghost town with this kind of just one fast food restaurant. That's the one we were calling up, and you know, different sized people who probably aren't into running were the majority of their kind of customers and people that work there and stuff like that. But
they'd be like, who are these random English guys?
Yeah,
what do they want?
I mean,
what's going on?
They were like that. Everyone who met us thought that, I think. And I'm a traditionalist. I still run in like very, very short split leg little numbers, little red shorts, and they got the American people set up a Twitter account for them and all sorts of things, because I was like, oh, this is what I just raced in. I don't know, it's just this is my running gear. But and then my dad showed up at the end, and loads of people all flew into Boston to take part in the last part of it. And my dad shows up, and he's got a pair of exactly the same shorts, but they've got a Union Jack on them, and he like totally stole the show. Then it's like, I'm going to outdo my son for sure. And yeah, it's just such a beautiful thing. Nice for my parents to come and see people look at you kind of with such kind of love, really, and just for your parents to see that as kind of a nice thing as well.
That's awesome, man. And like when you got back, like did you sort of see, like with the power of running and what that could do, and was that what then spurred on sort of looking at? Well, I guess like was it Project Awesome that which started after that, or
yes,
like was that kind of
that was just the power of that was just the power of community. There was no way on earth we were getting that baton across just with us guys. And when everyone got involved and they were like, oh yeah, I'm willing to help, and they'd reach out to as many people as they possibly could, or they'd reach out to news organizations, or they would, we definitely get the credit for it, but we didn't deserve any of it. All we did was bring in the first few people, and then it spread from there. And I think that was the beauty of it. It wasn't our event at all. It was the people's event, and they did with it what they wanted, and they crafted it. Like, I didn't know whether we were allowed to hug people, whether we should go in there solemn, and it was just like the first response, like everyone was hugging, and it was just such a beautiful thing. And then that became tradition, that even if you weren't a hugger, you still got hugs on that when you picked up the baton and stuff. And but anyway, so yeah, that gave me that kind of feeling of how amazing it is to be part of this like really strong community. And so yeah, well, you come back to London, and I wanted a bit of that there. And so Project Awesome was born. It's a free, colourful, loud fitness community that started with me and just a couple of mates just hanging out in the street and doing hard workouts that were kind of a little bit silly and a little bit fun. And by the end of that, you were talking, this is 6:30 in the morning, we'd be getting 300 people outside Sadiq Khan's office at the Scoop at the City Hall in London. And everyone, like, by that point, there's this kind of whole culture that we start with a bit of bouncing, then we chant about rainbows, unicorns, and pixie dust and stuff like this. And I'd shout rain, and then everyone else would shout bow back at me. It'd be like rain, bow, and then the people's bow would just echo round all the buildings of London for probably 15 seconds after we do one of those. And the energy was off the charts. People got really fit. People made friendships that will last a lifetime. And then we'd go for coffee after, and those conversations there are probably where the real big change. I think the fitness, the hugs, the community were amazing for kind of self-growth and well-being and all that sort of stuff. And and then in the coffee shop, you've got all these people who have amazingly good well-being and positive attitude in the world, and they sit down, they have chats. And there were two new guys sitting there, and they're like, one of them was saying, I've had this dream my whole life, about kayaking down the Amazon, and the other guy who was also a newbie was sitting next to him was like, oh, that sounds cool. And I think it was like 3 or 4 months after that conversation, they stopped coming to Project Awesome, which is sad. But 6 months after that, they came back and they told us the story of having kayaked down the Amazon. And just those sorts of stories. Yeah, that's one of the more wild ones. But those things were happening every week. Someone said to me, if you surround yourself with 7 angry people, you become the 8th angry person. If you surround yourself with 8 happy people, you become 7 happy people, you become the 8th happy person. And positive, you can just replace that word with whatever you want. And so it's so important to surround yourself with awesome people that are going to celebrate your ideas, no matter how wacky they are, how crazy. And rather than like majority of people, when you say let's kayak down the Amazon, would be saying, well, you might get shot at by people, or you might drown, or there's like piranhas, and show you all the reasons why you shouldn't. But this group of people were the people that said these are the reasons you should do it, and they were so overwhelmingly positive for the idea that people ended up doing this sort of stuff. Like crazy ideas, books have been written, adventures had, lives changed, relationships forged, babies born. It's just so cool to reel off that kind of list of things that are just the most beautiful things in life.
And these are sort of people that would, like, if they're going to get up early and do something like that, they're going to be motivated anyway, right? So then it's just feeding off the energy, getting those ideas and thinking like, all right, maybe we can. Like, I think that's the Amazon, we can do it, right?
I mean, who thinks it's a good idea to get up at like 5:30 to get to a workout for 6:30? I mean, and we do it on Monday morning. That was my favorite one was like Blue Monday. The day in January before you get before you get paid and all that sort of stuff. Most depressing day of the year. That was such a cracking day to do a workout, and we always seemed to get a little bit of press that day because it was just kind of we were just not allowing that to happen. And you're getting up at 5:30 on the most depressing day of the year to get up and get out and do some fitness, and you may be a bit glum getting there on the train, a bit tired, but then by the end of it, your whole life's changed around and you're like smiling from ear to ear. And loads of bosses would, people would come for a period of time, like even up to a year, and then they'd persuade their boss to come, and the boss would say to me, I've just been intrigued by this the whole time, because I knew, even though I didn't know anything about Project Awesome, I knew which days Project Awesome were on, because my staff came into work happier than they were on the days when there wasn't. And they come back down and the bosses try it and they're loving it as well. And it was like, man, obviously COVID has put a little bit of a blunter on that amazingness, because we haven't been able to hang out together. But it's still going, and it's spread to a few more cities, and so there's some chance of unicorns going on around a whole different load of cities in the UK, and it's all free. And so what can go wrong, really? It's fitness, it's free, it's positive. Going to it, only good things can happen in your life.
Nice one. And I've got to ask you this, you were on a pretty interesting TV show as well, right? Around sort of the special forces. Was that before Project Awesome, or did that kind of happen sort of during it?
That was, I think I was probably a year and a bit into leading Project Awesome, and I actually don't even remember how I ended up on the show, but obviously some email was sent or some contact was made, and they were asking for the fittest and toughest people in the UK, and at that time I was just like, come up here, like there's Olympic athletes and all this sort of stuff. But actually, when the show was actually on, you start realizing, I can see why they did actually approach you, because I've got a toughness. It's a toughness hidden behind glitter and smiles, but there is something deep down in there that, like, I just didn't allow it to break me, or I allowed it to break me without it breaking my soul. Like, there was a lot of people on there crazy. There were Olympic athletes on and world champions and all this sort of stuff. And I just think beneath the strong exterior, like one of the guys was like, he looked like the Predator. He was just like massive up top, tiny waist, long legs, fast, strong, all these sorts of things. But everyone was broken, and I think that's the whole point in the special forces. They just keep going until, yeah, I mean, just for your audience, because we haven't really said what it was. It was 6 special forces units were brought in, and we lived with them, ate with them for 2 days per special forces unit, and they were the kind of the boss guys were given orders to try and break us physically, mentally, or emotionally, and we were allowed to ring a bell to say, I'm out of here, it's too hard, or they kicked us off for being useless or whatever. And yeah, they made us suffer in no mild way. It was crazy. The TV show that came out was just not even anywhere near how tough it was. I had nightmares for about 2 or 3 months afterwards, just of the pressure they put you under. And you know, it was the mental. Like, that's the tough bit. Like, there's only so much your body can do, and when that stops doing stuff, what can you do but just kind of carry on as best as you can? There's a limit to the physicality, but I think your mental limits are probably a lot more elastic. And some people snap. Like these people who were insane athletes, they got broken by these guys, and they didn't know what to do from there. There was nothing left of them, because they were so much about their physical ability. And, you know, they were some of the first ones to go with these real tough characters. But, you know, the people that were the last 5 people for sure on the show were the ones who were the life and soul of the camp, because we were just enjoying it. And, yeah, I felt so privileged to, you know, we're only training for 2 days. There's no way on earth you can say that's anything like what the SAS go through. And like, I don't want to kind of piss people off by saying that, but it was a privilege to train with these people. And how many people have trained with the British SAS, the American Marines, the Aussie SAS, the Spetsnaz, the Russian guys, and, you know, Philippines, Israelis, probably just us lot. That's it. And wow, cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. I mean, and then what did you learn from that experience? That you can, I mean, obviously that you can take a lot. You're pretty resilient, right? Both sort of dealing with it mentally as well as obviously all the physical challenges. But
yeah, and well, you learn all that sort of stuff. But I mean, because it's going to be on the BBC primetime telly on a Sunday. It's like, whoa, this is going to change my life. Because, you know, I was working on Project Awesome, not getting paid anything. You do One Run for Boston, you're not getting paid anything. I was just scraping by on like tiny bits. I lived for a year on credit cards. My amazing landlady, Emily Stenning, she gave me kind of 10 months of free rent because she believed in what I was doing and knew I was on the right path, but I just didn't have the money to pay her, you know, like, you know, all of that helps your resilience. So when it came to the show, it was, you know, that I was able to use all that stuff. Yeah. And, but I thought it was going to change my life. I thought, you know, you're going to be on telly, you know, if you do well, then there's going to be, or, you know, the life's going to change. But, you know, that probably wasn't true. Slight changes happened, and you kind of have this, it gives you a bit of self-confidence, I think. Because, you know, I got through to, I was one of the last 3, one of the last 3 that kind of went the whole way, whole way through the thing. So that was super mega cool. But then but really, what's the long-lasting effect of that show has just been the friends. That going through such a tough time, you form bonds that you always see it when there's, you know, army people together and they've served in Iraq or Afghan or wherever it is. I'm probably one of the first people to say, God, what a bunch of twats. But you know, they're so tight, and they're you know, and you know, because we're not used to, like, in our normal civvy life, seeing people so tight together. Yeah. And actually being on the show, like we became like that. We were just when people were down, we were supporting them. When and just times that by 100 when you're out in the sands getting shot at, or we had people who were kicked off, and that upset me. It's like they don't deserve to be kicked off. Imagine what that is when that's not being kicked off and that's actually being hit by one of those bullets and things like this. So you can kind of understand why that happened. But those friendships, I've been to kind of 3 or 4 weddings, and hanging out with their kids now and everything like that. We're all getting a little bit older, and but we're still all in touch, and that's the real not all of us, but there's definitely a good core that all chat together and are supporting each other when they go on their separate journeys.
Cool, man. And what happened after the show? Was that kind of when, like, were you doing speaking before that, or were you then sort of like looking at doing like sort of like more motivational speaking sort of after the show came out and you were kind of doing different projects?
Yeah, I think I was giving talks because I was talking about the things that I'd learned from cycling to India or whatever, all the other projects, or through One Run and Project Awesome. You get a big kind of amount of people around you who know who you are, and if there's an opportunity to go and give a talk in someone's work, then you're kind of on the edge of on the tip of their tongue kind of thing. So I still was giving talks, but it all changed exactly at that point when I went on the show. But it didn't change because of the show. Just before I went on the show, I had an email through from the independent newspaper saying I've been voted one of the 100 happiest people in the UK. And at that point, we were getting stripped off naked so that we could go into the show, put our kind of army gear on and all that sort of stuff. And we're handing over our phones. We were kind of, you were taken away from your normal life.
Yeah.
And I just thought I'd quick look, just make sure nothing's going on. And I got this email through, and I was like, oh my goodness, I could be possibly on this show for 2 weeks. And what if I don't reply? Are they going to, they're going to choose someone else or something because they think they've got a wrong email address or whatever it is. And I almost said I'm not going to be on the show, even though I knew the show was I thought the show was going to change my life forever. I almost said, I'm pulling out, sorry. So this is more important, because that positivity and this recognition of the happiness that's the thing that has facilitated everything else, and that's the thing that facilitated me doing well on the show. And I was just like, yeah, this is cool. This is an honor. I'm enjoying it. I'm hurting, but I'm learning, and all that sort of all that kind of mentality, finding these little positive chinks within what you were doing. And it was actually being voted one of the 100 happiest people in the UK. It all worked out lovely in the end, and quite interesting that you're on this horrible hell show where you have to be as tough as hell, but you've also got this other thing going on the side, which is like you're one of the happiest people in the UK. And it was actually that changed everything. And I got called a happiness guru on some talk somewhere, and then that stuck, and everyone just was like, oh yeah, Dan is the happiness guru. He comes in and he makes us feel happy. And that's something I've been doing, slowly refining what that is and bringing new things in. And I love being around people, to people be around me, and I'm the one that's got the spotlight on me. That's even better. And just being able to talk to people, and always, when it's in person, I always make it super interactive, just simply because I love that. And if I can get them guys buzzing, then I'm buzzing, and then that bounces back and forth until like the whole place is just like reverberating with the energy of the room. And I've got a kind of host of stories that I tell that make people cringe or cry or they laugh out loud and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of give a few tips along the way. There's definitely I'm storytelling, but there's a few little tips on the side that kind of you can bring into your life and hopefully make yourself just feel a little bit better about everything. And if you can do that, and you can attach it to emotion, then wow, people are going to feel that for a longer period than just being told do this and it's going to make you feel this.
Yeah. And I mean, now, like with everything that's going on with the pandemic, and going through all these different things, and like what would be your one bit of advice if you could kind of if you could share it with people, you know?
I think, you know, there's probably two pieces of really good advice, and like my superhero skill is being able to find that little bit of positivity in whatever you're doing. And for me personally, you know, like I didn't know anyone in our street, I didn't know anyone's names. You might nod at someone walking down the road, but that's as far as it would go. And we were one of those streets that like me and my flatmates play music, so we were going outside on a Thursday, we'd play music for 20 minutes really badly, but we'd do it anyway. And then we'd have the clap for the NHS, and everyone came out, and everyone would come out for the clap, and they'd all come out and sing along with us, and you ended up getting to know everyone. We'd have a beer afterwards, just like we're in our own gardens, but we're just like chatting over the road. It was so nice. And for me, that's that kind of positive I've taken from it, because I now live in a community rather than in a house, and that's just a much more pleasurable place. And like, you know, my flatmates, her car battery didn't ran out, so she kind of just put a thing on the Facebook group, you know, the WhatsApp group, and you know, someone was round within about 3 minutes with a starter things to get it going. And then, you know, just little things like that. It's just, you know, without COVID, that wouldn't be happening. So if you can just find a tiny little thing that's changed in your life that's a little bit more positive, and you know, might have to look for it, but there will be something there that is better because of it. And you just kind of have to hold on to, they're just, you know, it's like a life buoy, and you're in the choppy seas, but you can just hold on to that one thing. It just keeps you from sinking under, really. I think that's the first thing. And then, you know, the other thing, you know, and these work for life. This is not just in COVID time. These are like, whether you're going into work and you've got a terrible meeting, or you're being made redundant, it's like, you know, potentially this next job is going to be the job of your dreams, or you're breaking up in a relationship, and you know, where's this going to take me, and what doors is this going to open for me? And you can talk about that with everything. But and then I think the other thing that I think you know, just, you know, one of the reasons I've been this super happy person is because I'm high all the time, like, but not high on drugs. I'm just high on life, the kind of serotonin, the oxytocin, the endorphins, dopamine. Because, and I like, when I start looking at the science of this, like, why do you feel these great feelings towards yourself and to the world around you? It's because I do cool things that bring these things out, whether that's, you know, the hugging in Project Awesome, and the oxytocin, that kind of connection, you're feeling like you're part of something, or whether it's the, you know, cycling to India and that having purpose, or whether it's the physicality, dropping endorphins or dopamine into your system. You know, it's if you can do some of these things, be kind to people. Being kind to people gives you drugs. It makes your body release drugs into itself. If someone says something nice, you know, thank you back to you, or you've made this, my first week at work, manageable because you took me under your wing, that sort of stuff. Like, anything you can do that kind of has a result on your own chemical balance of your body is just a cool thing, you know. Like, and you know, number one for me has been my sports, but that could be music, it could be dance, it could be you know, playing instruments, whatever it is, yeah, and drama, performing, and those things approach with passion, real passion for it, rather than, oh, this is going to look good on my Instagram.
Yeah,
go at it, like, fully immerse yourself in whatever you're doing, and then you're rewarded on so many different levels, in terms of having purpose, in terms of changing lives, in terms of what people think about you. But, you know, on the biological sense, you're rewarded with these like releases into your body that are the things that make you feel connected, make you feel loved, make you feel empowered, and just makes you feel like an awesome human. And if the more of those you can bring into your life, boy, you're winning. Yeah.
Cool, man. What are you working on now? What's next?
Well, I mean, you know, last year was supposed to, you know, I've talked a little bit, like, get the little violin out, you know, talking about not having been able to pay my rent and stuff like this. Like, last year was supposed to be the year everything was changing. It was like, oh, I got so many talks lined up. We we were going to run over across Iceland, and we were going to be doing a trip in Morocco and all this sort of stuff. I was like, oh wow, I'm going to be able to like not be flush, but like survive really well. And then suddenly you get this bloody news that COVID's here, and I think over 1 week 80% of my work was cut straight away, and it's like, oh man, that sucks balls. But it just seems now that we've had a whole year of just talking on Zoom and like with all my kind of people that like to do cool stuff, and we've been kind of plotting things, and of course like things have rolled over. So we're running across Iceland in August. Cool. And Iceland's one of the green countries, so fingers crossed that stays that way, and we get to do it. And these running across Iceland is obviously a big trip, and it's like 9 marathons basically in 9 days. But we don't really approach it in a way to say we believe people can do it. Straight out, you have to prove to us that you can't, almost. And we have people. We did it 2 years ago, and we had people come in who they'd run a half marathon before, but like they're signing up to run 9 marathons in 9 days. It's quite a different scenario to a half marathon. And I'd have a little chat with them first. You just check things out, and we're like, "Do you think I can do it?" And I'm like, "I just believe that nearly every human can just do that with the right." A little bit of training to begin with. Like, let's not get this blow it too out of the water, but you don't have to run a marathon before you can do that. And the way we kind of create it is that you run 10 miles before breakfast. You get rewarded with breakfast. You go like run 10 miles before lunch. You run 10 miles before your evening meal, and that's very.
You just be dangling food in front of them when they're like,
That's exactly the carrot on the stick. That's it. So that's basically it. And you get to run through this landscape, which is like running on another planet. Glaciers, volcanoes, hot springs, northern lights. It's totally and utterly mind-blowing experience. So that's happening in August, which is really, really cool. And the relay kind of idea last year changed. We've been doing physical relays all over the place, just bringing good and breaking down barriers between people. And last year, obviously, we couldn't do anything away from our homes, but we created a virtual thing called One Run Global Relay, and people ran for 1 hour. In their particular time zone. We were running at 7 p.m. When last year. We're changing that this year, but so the people of Kiribati are the first people to hit the 7 p.m. time zone. They ran till 8 p.m. By 8 p.m. their time, it's 7 p.m. in New Zealand. So the guys in New Zealand are starting to run for an hour. Then it's Australia, and this kind of Mexican wave of runners go around the planet. It's kind of like the fireworks of New Year's Eve, except for the fireworks aren't in the sky, they're in our trainers. And we raised a whole load of money for charities again. We just kind of brought the world together. We had people from every single country take part, 195 from Sudan to North Korea to Norway, Brazil, Canada, everyone was involved. And what an amazing experience that was. Just we're not making massive swathes of change, but we're doing something that we're bringing the world together. And people notice when they do this that they're people that might not be people that they might naturally like because of the community they're born into or whatever. They're like, all right, when they're doing exactly the same as me, and they're running shorts and trainers, and you're like, oh, they're not actually that different. We're pretty similar. We're all made up of 1 trillion cells, whatever it is, and it's unbelievable that we all look so alike. And any difference that is there should be celebrated with all like absolute amounts of passion. Like your good looks, my balding head. We should just celebrate all of those things. And then we're doing that again this year. But there's there's an idea that's kind of fermenting, and anyone who's listening who would like to feed back to me, we've got this idea that we want to run all the way around the world in a relay fashion, non-stop, passing a baton from one person to another. So my website's dannybent.com. If you think that's a good idea, send me an email, because that will give me even more persuasion to give it a go. Like, bringing the whole world together. And I kind of have this idea of an Israeli passing to a Palestinian, which is like very, very powerful symbol right now. Like, we all need to work together to succeed. And that's exactly what the relay is. If you don't pass that baton, the whole thing, everyone else's efforts are wasted, and the people waiting for the baton won't get their opportunity. So, and you know, whether that's an Iranian running and and just the Americans watching an Iranian and just like realizing, God, we're all the same. We all just want this. We all want the same in life, and we just want love, happiness, community. And if we all have that, then, you know, wouldn't the world be a wonderful place?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, hopefully that can happen. And if people do want to reach out, what's the best way that they can follow, if they can follow what you're up to?
I mean, I think, jump on Instagram, Danny_Bent. That's, you know, where I put most of my stuff. But if you want to go to my website, dannybent.com, then you can get everything from there. It's all LinkedIn and interactive and all that sort of stuff. And it talks about all the projects that are going on, from climbing Makalu, the 5th highest mountain in the world, to Iceland, to One Run, and you know, all the other crazy ideas. Like, there's always things cropping up that I wanna make happen.
Nice, cool. Danny, thanks so much for your time, man. It's been awesome chatting to you and hearing all your stories. And yeah, I mean, if there's anything that I'm going to be taking away from this, is obviously, you know, try and take every day as it is, be more motivated, and kind of, smile and just be kind to everyone, right?
And just listen to my dad's words. Just be the best version of you. That's all you can be. Don't strive to be anyone other than that. And I think that is, you know, that's the statement that changed my life, really, in the early years. So, and I just love it.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. Cheers, man.
Cheers for having me on.
That's it.